This is part one of a two-part podcast.
Put Paul's brain on your plot. Do you have a hunk of land but don't know where to start? Do you have a world-changing permaculture idea and you need some feedback? Do you feel like the guy in overalls may inexplicably hold the keys to all your wildest permaculture and homesteading dreams? Well, you're probably wrong. But if you want to give it a go anyway, you can hire Paul for a consultation. He will be all yours for a whole entire hour. Schedule your Paulversation today at permies.com/consult. permies.com/consult.
Okay, it's recording. So it is so hot in here. It's like Christmas is just a couple days away, and it is an oven in here. Why do you got it so hot? Yeah, go ahead. What it?
To torture you.
Okay. Alexandra and Steven are here, and so and then we're going to talk about running the rocket mass heater in the Fisher-Price house. This is its 12th winter. I think that it looks pretty brand new for being 12 years old. I don't know. I think it's going to go another 80 years or better. It's going to outlive me. I mean, you guys, does it seem like it's in perfect mint condition?
There are so few moving parts in a rocket mass heater that maintenance is so easy to take care of. I mean, you stick your hand in there and scoop out ash from way back at the other end of the wood feed or the burn tunnel, and then it's done.
And that kind of reminds me, the point of our thing today is to talk about the finer points of running this rocket mass heater. So a J-tube, possibly the best performing rocket mass heater in the world. Possibly. I could be wrong. I'd be glad to be wrong. I mean, it's been many years since this was built. Surely we've done better somewhere, or somebody's done better somewhere. But I imagine that everybody with a batch box is going to gloat about theirs. But I really think that this possibly outperforms those as well. In ways.
Yeah. Okay. I really like batch boxes because I think they're a great entry point for rocket mass heaters. People look at it and they think of a fireplace and they're like, oh, and I can throw any kind of chunk of wood in there. I don't have to chop it up into smaller bits. I can just take the butt ends of the logs that I've chopped up and I can throw those in there. When normally in a J-tube, you have to do some kind of processing to make sure that it fits. That's my own. Yeah. That would be my recommendation to somebody. Try out a batch box first, and then when you really fall in love with rocket mass heaters, go ahead and try out a J-tube like what we have here in the house.
I kind of feel the opposite. I feel like J-tube is simpler, easier to operate, more straightforward, more efficient.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, we can.
I can't argue with all that stuff. I'm talking about like an entry point. Like if somebody has never seen a rocket mass heater before, it seems to me an easy step to make from a wood stove or a fireplace to a batch box rocket mass heater. And that's what it seems like to me.
And I think that the fact that it looks like what they're used to is why it will fail.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like we got to get another podcast going here pretty soon to talk about like how to get the most out of a conventional wood stove. Now, Alexandra, you're here for 1 month to get a BB for running a rocket mass, keeping a home warm with a rocket mass heater full time for 1 month.
That's right.
And so you've elected to come into the Fisher-Price house and do this. And so you've worked on building several rocket mass heaters. Yeah. You wish to become a global rocket mass heater expert.
I don't know about that.
Regional rocket mass heater expert.
Gosh,
You wish to become a rocket mass heater authority of some sort. You're going to be a builder. You're going to be a
I would say it's more like I wish to build one of these in my home, and I want to make sure that the first one I build in my home is the best.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm practicing on other people's places for now.
Okay.
But that's terrible when I say it like that. But I'm working on, gaining experiences, and it seemed like I should baseline my experience on what seems to be the best rocket mass heater. And so I think in addition to working on the BB, I wanted to, again, get a baseline for how it should perform. So when I'm out building rocket mass heaters, I can, one, speak from some sort of authority on how to instruct others how to run it, and then two, know whether or not it is a good performer or not. How can I evaluate the performance of the rockets that I build?
Okay, all right. And I think an interesting perspective, a good reason to make this podcast is to talk about the fine-tuning of this particular rocket mass heater. But there's a little bit more to this in that you are an engineer. So it's like I've had people stand here. In fact, I'm going to tell a quick story about this very rocket mass heater. It was probably the third or fourth year that we had it. And there was a guy standing here, and he was going to fire it up for the very first time. And I tried to give him advice, but he did the hand, talk to the hand move, the whole thing where you put his hand in front of my face. And he informed me that he is an engineer. He doesn't need any advice. He then proceeded to do everything wrong. Like, for example, putting the firewood down into the burn tunnel, which is something that you and I have talked about.
Yeah.
Like, boy, I'm struggling to keep it from just accidentally sliding in there.
Right, yeah.
Well, he was intentionally trying to put it in there, and he was feeling like the design of this rocket mass heater was flawed because it was a challenge for him to get the wood to go down in there.
Well, because he's coming from a conventional background.
I'm not even sure of that. I think he was coming from a fuckwit background. He's a stupid shit is what it is, who somehow managed to get a degree in engineering but didn't have a job in engineering. And as the days passed, I learned more and more about this guy. I more and more came to the conclusion, wow, this guy's a fucking idiot. I even wonder if he actually went to college at all, let alone got a degree in engineering. And of course, you and I have worked with engineers before, some of whom where you kind of end up asking this question, are you sure you went to engineering? I think you must have gone to a different engineering school than the one I went to. I've been at times amazed that people are able to harvest a professional wage with an engineering job.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, Paul, but I used to run computational fluid dynamics models for mixed flow, steady state, turbulent flow. So I really enjoy learning more about the rocket mass heater because I just think of the thermal modeling of it. And I also have, I guess unlike the previous engineer who gave you the hand, I have a good respect for fire and safety, and so I also could I still have a lot to learn about these systems, and so anyway, it's very interesting for me to observe and learn from you guys, the experts.
Okay, so now you've been heating this space, sometimes overly warm, for many weeks, and I've seen you operating it, and I've done my very best to not touch it because that's the BB. You have to do it yourself. That's kind of all BBs are that way. Mm-hmm. And so the best I can do is point and make whiny sounds in the general direction.
Thank you.
But I think overall, you generally do one fire per day. Is that about right? Have you ever gone 2 days? With a fire?
When I first arrived, Shane was running it, and it got up to 78, and I'm used to, an indoor temperature of 66. So on my first 2 days, I kind of let it see how long will it take to get down to a comfortable temperature for me. But I've since learned that I just need to adjust to a higher comfort level to satisfy the BB, and so now I've gotten to a pattern of running it once a day. But I will say there was one day where I didn't run it long enough in the morning. We all left town, and so, or left to go into town, and so there wasn't a lot of heat being generated. So I had to adjust and run actually 2 fires that day. And so I'm still getting used to how to adjust based on who's going to be occupying the space. But I think generally speaking, my kids are always complaining that it's too hot.
Yeah. But I mean, and we could talk about that in a moment about, the requirement, the BB requirement, and why it's so high. But I guess the thing is that on average, I'm going to guess that here we are, the coldest month of the year in Montana, and I'm going to guess that you're currently doing about 2 hours of burn per day, but you are learning about how to do it more efficiently. You could probably get it down to an hour per day or even less if you were to be paying attention more and operating it in a way that's more efficient.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, all right. And then I know that generally when I operate it, and I'm not, pursuing a BB or anything, and it's just me, I go ahead and get it up to like 77, 78, and then I don't have a fire the next day, and I wake up and it's like, 69 inside or something like that, and then I let it go another day, and then the next day after that it's like 62, and then I'll do a fire. And that's my laziness is my primary driving force. But for comparison, on the way here, because you don't have an enormous amount of experience with running a conventional wood stove, but on the way here you stopped to see JR, and he heats his home with a wood stove, and you observed him.
Yeah, he used a lot of big pieces of wood, and man, he was feeding it what seemed like every 30 minutes. And I was surprised to see that much wood be used, and for such a small space. He has a home smaller than yours. I don't want to guess what percent smaller, but a smaller home. I was surprised that he didn't have a rocket instead. For the amount of extra time that he probably spends feeding that conventional wood stove, it would probably save him time in the course of a year to just build a rocket in its place. Yeah,
and he's quite the builder dude, so... Yeah. Now, Steven, your experience with running conventional wood stoves is also pretty sparse.
That's true. We would easily be doing, a fire a couple times a day. So, let's see. The first example I gave you was a guy who actually used the firebox to heat up water in pipes that he would cycle through, and then so it was a wood-fired steam radiator system that went through a house. So he had switched that around. So that was a system where you had to heat the water up and make sure it stayed warm. So we would have a fire, once or twice a day, and it would be an hour or so that you'd be down there in the basement, just sitting there feeding the fire, and just putting in piece of wood after piece of wood. Second place I lived that had a firebox, I was there for quite a while. The firebox was more of a novelty. He had a radiator system in his house that was conventional, like natural gas or something. This is in the city. And then, like, if he had friends over, if it was a very, 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 very cold day, he would light up the wood stove and heat up that room. It wasn't actually used as the sole heating source, or it wasn't even the primary heating source of the home.
The key is that your experience with wood heat is pretty light.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
And then
I'd say.
I'm going to say I have enormous experience with heating a home all year with nothing but wood in it with a wood stove long before I learned about rocket mass heaters. And going, the sheer volume of wood and keeping the fire going and needing to have like a fire first thing in the morning and needing to have fires throughout the day. I even dabbled with the foolish idea of trying to have a fire that goes through the night. And it's like, and I think I could record a whole other podcast about how that's a bad idea and how to do better. But the key is, okay, we're going to try and limit today's conversation to how to get the most out of this rocket mass heater, or what it's like using this rocket mass heater, things of that nature. The point I want to make is like, oh man, this is so much better than a conventional wood stove. Yes, the wood feed on this one is small. This is an 8-inch system, but the wood feed has been reduced in size to be basically a 6-inch wood feed. It's a smaller wood feed. The point you were making earlier, Steven, was, boy, I like those batch boxes because if I'm trying to split wood and there's a chunk of wood that's full of knots and it came out all ugly and weird and it's not like like I can't even stack it in like a store it for future use because it's just too twisted and it screws everything up. I can take this giant block of wood and throw it into a batch box and burn it.
Stuff it in there and forget about it.
And now I don't have to stack it. I can have the good stuff in the stacks and this ugly, crazy stuff. I can just, and I got to confess, that is nice. Because the wood feed on this thing is so small.
Yeah.
You've got to have something that can even fit, because those big blocks won't even go in there.
When I first arrived, I was surprised. I was not expecting such a small feed tube, feed intake and
wood feed.
Wood feed, thank you. And so that presented a little bit of a challenge at first that I had to get used to. I definitely prefer an 8-inch system. It's just easier to put wood in there compared to a 6-inch. And this one is not square. It's more slot-shaped or rectangular. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in engineering we call that a rectangle. Oh, she's making an ugly face.
I wish I had something smarter to say.
I think she's looking for things to throw. Okay, so but anyway,
learning new things. Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, with a full 8-inch square wood feed, you can get a little bit more wood in. You could probably get about, I'm going to guess, 40 or 50% more wood into that. So, so this is pretty light. But I think that the important thing is you look at that and you think, oh wow, that is too small, and then you run it for an hour, and then it's like, and now it's too warm in here. Mm-hmm. And so that is a huge difference.
Yeah, it's less, after having run it for a few weeks, it seems like it's actually now less effort, less wood to fill the belly. And so, it was just an adjustment, but I was surprised at first because I knew it was an 8-inch system.
You brought these small biological creatures with you, and they keep trying to get your attention. So I'm worried that you're distracted from our conversation by the whispering happening in your ear over there. And
but they're so cute.
Okay. So now they're making silly faces. Okay. For the BB, at some point in time we made the BB. There are, I believe, if I remember correctly, there are 1,477 BBs that have been defined, and if I remember correctly, we said something like you got to have an average temperature in the building 70 degrees. And
it can't go below 65.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
It's pretty warm.
It is really warm, and it is warmer than we generally keep it here.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, I kind of feel like I have this constant battle to be able to talk about rocket mass heaters with fuckwits, and I also am directed to conversations that are happening on the internet where I have not been invited. And people are like, hey, look over here. And I go over there, and there's fuckwits talking to fuckwits talking to fuckwits. Probably a mix of corporate trolls, and their AI bot army is mixed in there too. And it's amazing how they so desperately need to say that this is not true.
And so I'm working kind of, just a few hours a day to ensure that somebody from Florida or Texas will be perfectly comfortable in Montana.
That's true.
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention, it's very BB specific or SCIP program specific, is that the BB is to test somebody's ability, and by meeting those criteria, you very clearly meet, like you pass the test. By being able to keep the temperature above 65 the whole time in the winter, then that means that you've been attentive, you haven't screwed anything up with the heater, and that the structure that you're in is going to maintain that heat as well. So there are a lot of things that are being tested, and I think that's the point, is that the person themselves is keeping tabs on all that stuff, and they know how to do it. So yeah, that's what the BB, that's how you earn the BB, by keeping track of all that stuff.
Hey, this is Steve Blankenship. Have you seen the new video of Wheaton Labs? It is permaculture awesomeness with all new and improved things like more rocket mass heaters, easy bake coffin, Willy Wonka, rocket cooktop 2.0, and the truly passive greenhouse. To see more, go to permies.com/tour. Again, that is permies.com/tour.
Well, we picked the number 70, and a big part of picking that is that the average temperature of the average American home is, when they, what do they set their thermostat at? They set it anywhere between 67 and 76. That's the average. Or maybe it's the mean. I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've looked at those. So basically, the thing is that we need to be able, I feel like if we set it to anything lower, then dumb fucks are going to say, rocket mass heaters suck so much they can't even get a temperature in a house above 60. And so by saying 70, and then people demonstrate 70 and higher, then it's like, okay, they're not going to get any traction here.
Well, Paul, I'm glad you're able to add some context to that, because I thought the point of the BB was just to make you suffer a little bit. Because it seems that I have to start the heater as soon as it gets comfortable.
Well, let's talk about comfort. No. Let's talk about comfort for a second in a different way.
Sure.
And that is that a lot of people are like, how the hell it's going to be below freezing in the bathrooms. It's going to be below freezing in the bedrooms because the heater is only in the living room. So everybody else, every other room in the entire building is going to be caked in ice, and everybody will die of hypothermia.
And that could be true if you keep all of the doors closed, right?
I don't think that's even true to keep the doors closed. I mean, if maybe that's an experiment to do. So you and your kids are staying in the bunk room while you're here. Mm-hmm. Close the door.
Yeah, we
close the door
at night.
All day, every day for a few days. And how cold does it get? I bet you that it probably gets to be 5 degrees cooler than in the living room.
That would be an interesting experiment if you didn't have children keeping the doors open all the time.
That's true. That's true.
But of course, there are thermoclines, and so the heat will transfer throughout the home. Yeah.
The key is that the furthest points in this building away from the rocket mass heater, I think during the fire, so like right now it's 77 in here. I would think that if we went through the building to the farthest points away and carefully measured the temperature, I would think probably 72. And so it's not covered in ice. People are not dying of hypothermia. It's bizarre how people are grasping at this to be like, what a failure it is, because everybody's going to die. And it's like, are you kidding me?
And it would be, maybe they're right if they've got a 30,000 square foot home.
No, I think that there could be some truth to that, and that would be if you've got a 30,000 square foot home, you're probably going to have, and you want to heat with a rocket mass heater. My guess is that you would have more than one.
Multiple systems.
It would be size, exactly.
That would be my guess. The key is that when the fire is out, and then you're leaning, and then it's the mass that's heating the space, then I would say like 12 hours later, the temperature in here, like 12 hours from now, the temperature in here will be 74. Yeah. And then the temperature at the farthest extremities of the building will probably be 71, is my guess. It kind of starts to even out a little bit over time. But and that's without a bunch of fans running or anything like that. It's just, air moving around, warmer air rising and filling up the next rooms and whatever else. And if the doors were closed, then it might be closer to 68 is my guess. It's not that different, because the doors to each of the rooms is like not exactly getting a seal when you close the door, and it's not an insulated door and stuff like that. I think it doesn't make that much of a difference. So and this is what we're trying to talk about, is like, what is it like using this rocket mass heater for the first time, and as well as, with a lot of experience. And so, like, what are the finer points of using this rocket mass heater? And I do think that that's such a critical point that so many people have. And I get when I try to talk about rocket mass heaters, I get people who interrupt me and insist that I am a lying sack of shit, because of these crazy things that pop into their head, such as there's no heater in that bedroom, therefore it will get caked in ice and people will die of hypothermia. And where they get it is that they're used to the idea of having a central furnace, where there's a system to blow the air around and heat all the rooms equally. And I'm kind of thinking like, we're not doing that. Okay, all right. Sorry, I had to go off on that. Let's move on to operation. When you run the fire in a J-tube, you put the sticks in vertically. If there are coals in there already, some of the coals tend to bunch up like away from the riser and be less towards the riser. So there's less slope. And then when you put the sticks in, they kind of want to flop over and go into the burn tunnel. And it's like, yeah, it kind of sucks. There's not a great way to deal with that. I mean, I suppose you could get the poker and kind of move the coals around and even them out a little bit or something. But so that way when you go to put the sticks in, they're not trying to go into the burn tunnel, because the sticks need to remain vertical. And granted, sometimes they go into the burn tunnel and I just kind of like, damn, I'm not going to meddle them. It's going to, it'll be burned. That stick will be all burned up and gone soon enough. I do want to say, because I haven't written it down, that when we store the wood inside, I do the smaller stuff to the left and the bigger stuff to the right, and that there's different times of the burn where I want to use smaller stuff and different times I want to use the bigger stuff. And then I got this one little cubby where I put the weird shaped, blocky, funky, whatever. I call them the shorties. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes it's like I look in there and it's like I want to add some wood, but there's a lot of coals and sticks and stuff, and it's not really ready to take more wood.
But a full load of new wood.
Yeah, but I could throw a couple shorties in there.
Just to top it off a little.
Because the way that the burn goes is you kind of put a bunch of sticks in there and get it going. And then usually those sticks are all, pretty much gone in about 15 minutes. Is it? And so I see you guys nodding. The pod people cannot hear your nods.
I'm kind of nodding. I wish I had kept a better track of timing, and so I'm trying to.
Okay, you're willing to say maybe.
Yeah.
I haven't timed it. It could be 13 minutes. It could be 16 minutes. It could be 20 minutes.
Could be. And
it depends on the size of the wood.
Yeah,
it depends on how well you got the fire started.
I was just going to mention it depends on if the first batch of wood is generally on the smaller end, then it would burn obviously a lot faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I usually do smaller wood on the first fire, and then about 50 minutes later I check on the fire. And that's another thing too is I've heard people say that rocket mass heaters suck because you have to sit there and baby the fire the whole time. But I don't know of anybody that does that. I start the fire, and once I hear a crackle, which is usually 2 minutes in to after, I put the papery bits in, and then I throw in what I call magic fairy dust, which is basically little wood chips that I gathered from where we chop the wood. And then I throw in the little sticks, and a little bit of flammage, and off it goes. And then I go do other things. And then I come back. I try to think of coming back in 15 minutes. Coming back in 15 minutes, I think, is smart. And sometimes I get distracted, and oh no, that's right, I got a fire going, and I come back, and it's like down to just a couple of coals, and it's like that's an inefficient fire.
Yeah.
But okay,
it's inefficient because in between filling the belly, you kind of let the system temp go below what's needed for a full combustion.
True.
Yeah.
True. Now it's just pulling a lot of air through the system, and the air in the house is now being pulled past the mass instead of hot air.
Yeah.
And it's like if I was smart, I would do it in 15 minutes, but I don't set a timer or anything. I just kind of try to remember.
Yeah, I've been thinking about setting a timer. I wonder if you want to start at the very beginning and do a step-by-step. This is how you've operated it. Starting with removing ash to get it ready.
Oh, yeah.
Right, like all the way at the beginning.
So we've got a little bucket that's near the wood feed, and it's a stainless steel bucket, and there's a little kind of a cardboard
paper box that's used as a scoop. It's just the right size.
It's like the paper box might have been for a pen set or something. Whatever it was, it's like, oh, that is the perfect size. It's just great. And then I pull out 1 scoop of ash. I don't try to get it a big heaping scoop or anything like that. I just make one pass at getting some ash out.
Because leaving a little bit of ash is beneficial in that it insulates the bottom of the feed intake.
Yeah. Plus I'm lazy. And if I pull out, 30% of the ash that's in there, it's like, good enough. And then I proceed. But if you have too much ash in there, it starts to choke out the fire. So every time I pull out 1 little scoop of ash, which turns out to be plenty. And then I start laying in paper, and we just kind of save all the burnables all year long, and then I just grab a bunch of papery burnables.
So how many of your handfuls, and then how many of my handfuls would that equate to?
I'll bet I grab first of all, sometimes there's like this, like we'll get a package, and then there'll be this paper packaging on the inside that's like paper sack paper, only it's all wadded up, and it'll be like a 5-foot long piece of it, in which case I just try to shove all that down in there, and that'll be it. But other times it's like...
So you use like a 5-foot section of this...
I don't know.
Paper bag like material.
What I do is I try to get some into the burn tunnel, and then mostly I try to get the wood feed up to like almost the height of the burn tunnel. I need there to be at least 1.5 inches of airspace going into the burn tunnel. And then once I get to that point, I throw what I call magic fairy dust on it, which is that little cardboard box over there that's got like the little wood chips that you find on the ground after you've chopped wood outside. And I throw it in that little box, and I imagine some of it was kind of wet when I threw it in the box, but it dried out pretty good, well enough. So I throw like a handful of that on it. And then we've got a little, isn't that propane torch fun to use? I mean, some people use lighters and things and matches and stuff, but this thing is like, and then you're done.
Oh yeah, it makes quick work of it. You don't even have to, it's not painful at all.
It's just kind of a cool contraption as well, you know.
I can imagine if you're trying to ignite it with matches, that might be annoying.
So I try to ignite the flames right next to the burn tunnel. And so that way it kind of ends up going the correct direction. And then I load it up with wood. I fill the belly. A rocket mass heater likes a full belly. And so I pile all the small wood in, and until the wood feed is loaded, like I can't add another stick into the wood feed.
How long do you wait before igniting the papery stuff to filling the belly? Is it like moments?
I wait 7 seconds, which is about the amount of time it takes for me to turn off the propane torch and put it away.
Okay.
There it goes. It's over there. And I've already got the wood sitting next to the wood feed, and now I just turn away from the propane torch, now tidied away, and start putting it in.
Gotcha. Yeah, very immediate.
I'd like to mention one thing about this. In my experience, I end up lighting fires not here in the house, but most of the time in the library or in the wood shop. And in those situations, the fire hasn't been lit for several days at a time. And I think that going very, very quickly to a full belly, like you described here in the house, is very, very tricky.
But you're talking about let's mitigate cold plug issues.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
and that's another conversation for another day. I think.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good to know. I think I've been babying the initial start temps with the papery and cardboard stuff, I think, longer than I needed to, because I think I'm used to more of what Steven is mentioning.
Which is not a bad idea, because we got so much papery junk to get rid of from the summer. Like, yeah, let's get rid of it. Okay. Get it out of here.
Okay. I always say, when in doubt, use more cardboard.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and toss it right in there. It is okay. It is not going to hurt.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing is cardboard, when you get a bunch of it in there and it burns, it kind of grows. It gets bigger, and then it wants to plug everything up.
Not as bad as bark, though.
Yeah, bark is worse. Yeah.
Bark is kind of my nemesis.
But I also kind of feel like if the fire is getting to the point where it's like there's not enough room in there for me to add wood, like there's some big stick that's still in there kind of gumming up the show or whatever, and I don't have any shorties handy, I'll throw in a whole bunch of cardboard on top of it, and it'll burn the fire so hot that it'll burn out, and it'll make room so I can put proper sticks in. Yeah. And so that's a trick for later. But all right, you're asking me for what do I do to start it. And the thing is about the full belly is I put all the sticks in vertically into the wood feed, and then over the next minute, all of those sticks sink inside, because they're all sticking up too high. But in the next minute, the paper that's underneath them burns, and then the sticks fall into the wood feed rather perfectly. And then then there's the whole thing about moving the bricks. And you were saying something about how Steven places the bricks differently than I do. And I know the way I do it is also the way that Ernie and Erica does it. Yeah, do. Okay, so what I do is when the sticks are inside the wood feed properly, as they should be, I place the 2 fire bricks over the wood feed in such a way that the 2 fire bricks touch near the barrel, but they are wide open away from the barrel. So it's kind of a V shape. And in my mind, more air is going into the back, because when the fuel burns, usually the sticks away from the barrel burn slower than the sticks near the barrel. And so I'm thinking if we can get more air to the back, then toward the sticks away from the barrel, they'll burn faster, and it'll end up being more of an even burn.
I want to just clarify, the back is closer to where we stand, and the front is what's close to the barrel or the riser.
Right. Yes.
So, baseline.
So now the fire's going, and I go off and start processing emails and stuff in my office, and then I come back in like 15 minutes, and hopefully the fire is to a point where I can start now adding more wood, adding usually bigger chunks. Now, I think one of the things that you pointed out, and you've changed the way you've done it. I can see all the firewood you got lined up to be burned, and you went with all small stuff, which is a way. That is a strategy. I'm lazier than that. But you did also try to start off with much bigger chunks.
I did. I wanted to start with the most lazy approach, but after experiencing the 6-inch intake, I realized very quickly that it was more effort to try to position the bigger pieces. And so, yes, you have pointed out that I've made I've chopped my wood way too fine, and so I've gone from one extreme to another.
Well, on your first pass, I was looking at the wood that you stacked over there when it was the big chunky stuff, and I was thinking like about a quarter of your big chunky stuff I don't think will even fit inside the wood feed. It's so big and so chunky. And I usually, as I'm doing it, I'll end up with little stuff and then and bigger stuff, but the stuff that's bigger is like I might have a piece that will barely fit inside the wood feed, but I'll still need to add a couple smaller pieces to kind of give it a full belly. But all the pieces that I cut will fit. But and a lot of times when I'm out there and I'm cutting the wood, it's kind of like I'm shooting for just the big stuff, and I end up with a bunch of medium and small stuff too. And so it just happens. And so it's like, good enough.
Yeah, I figured I was giving myself a gift to my future self, because the smaller the sticks, the easier it is to just position it, and there's less fiddling around with it. So I went for a smaller, and also the smaller the stick, the hotter the system gets. And so I wanted to really try out that method. But I think I definitely got carried away on the kindling cracker. It was just so fun chopping that I just can't stop.
Isn't it? It is nice. It is nice to use a kindling. Those things are cool. And after you've used it 7 or 8 winters, you're kind of like, the novelty is worn off, and you're like, I just want to get it done.
One thing, kindling cracker. Once you've used it, every other method just is detestable. You're like, no, oh gosh, where's my kindling cracker?
I have to use an axe?
Yeah. Like,
what? How dumb are we here? What is...
I don't know if I'd ever use an axe again. That was it was painful. It was painful for other people to watch me. But there's a smaller kindling cracker on a shorter stump, and there was a smaller hammer, and so my 8-year-old was just having a grand old time. Because they're a lot safer to use, but man, he loved it. He even said something weird, like, "This is more fun than my birthday party."
Wow. See, now, I kind of look at it as, okay, so first of all...
skip the roller rink and take him to the woodshed? Is that no bowling today, kids? It's wood cutting? What?
It was so adorable. I really enjoyed seeing him.
So there's a big perk right there, and so basically you get the kindling cracker, and then you have chopped firewood infinitely with no effort. because
There you go, kids. Yeah.
the bio remotes got out there and did it for you.
It was so cute. I took so many photos.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'll never forget how
Hey,
good that
Bio Remote 2, why don't you go out there and get us some firewood? But the stuff out there is kind of big, so, bring in the small stuff, okay? Yeah, I will, right? And then next thing you know, the firewood rack inside just fills right up.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't very fast at it, but I could imagine in some time.
Okay, let's talk about, so we talked a little bit about how you want to become a rocket mass heater expert. And a part of that is that it's kind of like, I mean, you've seen them in operation. You've helped to build them. It's like, I think building a rocket mass heater is ridiculously simple. There's really not much to it. It's a pretty quick build. It's pretty simple, and it's just a matter of there's a couple of things you definitely want to try to get right. And at the same time, I want to state I have seen people, like I remember this one where I was invited to go into Missoula and somebody's building a rocket mass heater and they asked me to come by and just take 5 minutes to give them advice. And it was like, and my advice was, do not continue with what you're doing. You must stop. I mean, it was...
I've had a similar experience. I was also asked to go take a look at one being built that was intended in a farm for kids. They have a lot of kid activities and educational things. And my 5-minute advice was, you need to disassemble this ASAP.
Yeah.
Like, this is not safe. Please don't. And it was really hard because it made me so sad.
They had so much love in it, and they were so proud.
I don't know.
Then it's
actually,
like, I'm here to make you cry.
I actually think I gave them a huge sense of relief because they were really unsure about every step of the way, and it showed.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I was the bad news bear, I guess.
I
saved them, I think.
I think it's very simple, but at the same time, there's some
really
stuff to know.
There are really simple mistakes you can make, like using concrete instead of fire brick.
The one I saw, that their riser was that someone had found a steel tube.
Oh, fun!
And they were like, "This is going to be our riser." And I'm like, "No."
I can beat you. There wasn't a riser in the one I saw.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, concrete, no riser. Confusion. So much confusion with how they were calling this a rocket.
Yeah.
Anyway, we don't need to belabor that point.
Right.
But I would actually like to counter. It is a simple system, but I think for the majority of people, it is way complicated. For the majority of people, it's way complicated.
It helps to see one in action.
Yeah.
It helps to kind of get the feel of it, of using it, and then when you see how easy it is, and now we've got some ideas about some new videos to make that'll make things easier for people, but it doesn't have to be. I think that in the end, it does turn out to be pretty simple. There's the wood feed, the burn tunnel, the riser, the manifold, the mass, the vertical exhaust. That's kind of
There doesn't need to be any real metalworking or welding. There doesn't have to be a lot of complicated masonry cuts. For a system like this, I think it is pretty simple. If you have some skills in those trades, then it seems very straightforward. But if you're coming from not having very much experience building something like this, there are a lot of hurdles. What do you think?
I think that this goes back to my enthusiasm for batch box. So I've heard that a batch box is more complex to build than a J-tube system.
Can I speak to that a little bit?
Please.
For a batch box system, there are a lot of precise, complicated geometric cuts that you would need to make, and in addition to that, you need to have a way of mounting a metal door. But of course, the expansion rate of brick to metal is different. So now you have to build an exoskeleton to hold the door, or have some way of mounting the door. And so that adds quite a bit of complexity, and there might be some welding. There might be a lot of specialized tools. So that's primarily what makes a batch box system a lot more complicated.
Okay. I have experience using the one in the shop quite a bit, and that is a fantastic system. Again, don't necessarily want to talk too much about a batch box. And you know, when Paul had stepped away, that's when I was able to talk about batch boxes.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Stop it. All right. The thing
I'll
is,
shut up. I'll shut up.
This podcast is continued in Part 2.
Hi, this is Mark. There are a lot of reasons to get angry these days, but I prefer to focus on the positive things that we each can do to make this world a better place. The book Building a Better World in Your Backyard, Instead of Being Angry at Bad Guys, is a great resource for just that. Instead of throwing my arms up in frustration at governments or big corporations, there's a list of ideas that we each can tackle to affect change. Information about this book and other resources can be found at Permies.com.